So Pixel 6 Pro 6 months later, let's do it. The Pixel 6 Pro is, like many phones these days, a flippin' huge 6.7-inch brick. But a rather lovely brick packing some splendid tech, including Google's first Tensor chipset and an impressive camera setup. Now for the past 6 months, I've pretty much permanently had the Pixel 6 Pro stuffed inside of my backpack or a random pocket in order to do the likes of camera comparisons. And while I rather enjoyed it when I first reviewed it, I gotta say I definitely preferred its wee sibling, the original Pixel 6. But have my feelings towards the Pixel 6 Pro changed at all over the past half a year? Well, I recently slapped my SIM back in there again for a full week, used it as my full-time phone again, and here is my full re-review. And for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! Now, despite its relatively skinny bezels, the Pixel 6 Pro is still just as massive as the Galaxy S22 Ultra and other Godzilla-sized smartphones, not to mention quite chunky and hefty to boot. So one-handed use, even with the screen shrinking feature, is about as much fun as playing chess with a flatulent howler monkey. And you won't want to rest it on the edge of a sofa either, because that slippery arse end means that the Pixel 6 Pro will just glide its way straight to the edge before hurling itself off. I know exactly how you feel, buddy. That mighty screen started to scratch up after just a few days, like many Gorilla Glass Victus panels. So I've got to say, 6 months on, I thought it would be an absolute state, but thankfully a few extra little very light nicks have been added to the collection, but that's about it. And that's despite occasionally being chucked in a pocket with other smartphones or literally just bouncing around inside of my backpack. The alloy frame has also been dinked up a little in places, but nothing horrendous. The Pixel 6 Pro still looks rather smart, with a unique design that certainly stands out from rivals, while this white model is adept at masking greasy prints and other grime. It is just annoying that bits of crap and dust and grime manage to constantly wedge themselves in these sharp interior corners above and below the camera bump, and if you've not got any long fingernails to dig them out, then you're basically stuck with them. Ugh. But at least the Pixel 6 Pro is fully IP68 water and dust resistant, so you can give it a good dunking in a sink or whatever and clean out all that crap. The Android 12 experience has been highly enjoyable here on the Pixel 6 Pro, even if the occasional bug does pop up to ruin your day, like an unexpected Mrs. Brown's Boys repeat. And that is a massive shame, given how long the Pixel 6 Pro has been around now. You'd expect most of these bugs to be ironed out in the first month or so, really. And we're not talking anything major here, exactly, just annoying little things like, for instance, a notification saying that somebody is calling you on WhatsApp when in fact you've actually answered their call and spoken with them and already hung up. Or sometimes when you go to shoot an impromptu video, the Pixel won't bother to pause any audio that it happens to be playing at the time. What have we got so far? For some people, these bugs seem to be a pretty regular kick in the crotch, but for me, I only very occasionally see a proper bit of jank. But even minor bouts of balkiness shouldn't be happening on a flagship smartphone, especially a Google branded smartphone where they've done the hardware as well as the software. And also, I've definitely seen a lot more bugs here on the Pro model rather than the regular Pixel 6, but I don't know if that's just dumb luck or whatever, it's just been my experience. Apart from these little bugs though, Android 12 has been an absolute pleasure. For one, the call screening feature is an absolute godsend if you're constantly plagued with endless spam calls from telemarketing twats, saving me countless minutes of politely telling them to go fist themselves. Then of course there's the revamped privacy features, so you can keep tabs on all of your apps and what they're actually up to rather than the other way around. Plus the improved theming tools and numerous other UI improvements make Android look and feel slicker than ever before. As ever though, a lot of the best bits are actually things that you wouldn't really notice because you're not really supposed to notice them. I'm talking about unsung heroes like the excellent haptics, which serve up whisper quiet rumblings just when you need them. And I also appreciate a lot of the fresh new updates, such as the At a Glance widget, which is getting better with every update. You can now get the likes of a quick snapshot of whoever just rang your Nest doorbell, for instance. You don't have to waste time dragging down notifications, tapping your way into the app, checking it out, by which time whoever's stood at your front door is probably buggered right off if they're an impatient courier or whatever. Plus, when you go Google, you can count on 4 more years of security and OS updates, which is much better than most rivals offer. My only other complaint is aimed square at the Pixel 6 Pro's absolute stinker of a fingerprint sensor. While most optical sensors these days are actually pretty decent, this turd sandwich gives me daily headaches. And yes, I know it's kind of tedious people banging on about just how bad this optical scanner is, but seriously, I've registered my thumbs multiple times just to see if that helps at all. And even if they're bone dry, I'm talking not covered in chicken grease or pork pie residue or any of that shenanigans, still that sensor fails just more than it should. Seriously, people who pass me on the street must think I'm an absolute mentalist screaming at my smartphone, "It's me, you bastard, let me in!" And rumours have it that Google is going to sort this out for the Pixel 6a. I really hope that's the case, or at the very least we've got some respectable face unlock action on there as an alternative. Anyway, moving on, and nothing more really to add to my original Pixel 6 Pro review as far as the media chops go. That OLED screen is a match for any other premium smartphone panel out there, spaffing out beautifully crisp Quad HD Plus visuals with sharp contrast. Perfect for drinking in an HDR movie on the go. Bright poppy colours are where it really excels, with all the other OLED benefits including wide viewing angles. Well, thankfully the dinky selfie orifice doesn't intrude too much on the action when you do full screen that mofo. The auto brightness is still doing its job perfectly, while that 120Hz maximum refresh keeps Android looking silky smooth. And besides the lack of a headphone jack, as per bloody usual, the Pixel 6 Pro doesn't disappoint when it spaffs out sound. Streaming to Bluetooth speakers or headphones is a judder-free experience, even when you push the limits of the supported range, or you're jostling for space in a crowded post-COVID world. Even the stereo speakers are pretty decent for smartphone blasters, pleasingly loud but not too tinny. You got UFS 3.1 storage, of course, like pretty much all flagships, either 128 gigs or 256 gigs if you've got a bit more money to spunk at Google. But of course, as is standard for flagship smartphones, no micro SD memory card support to expand that when needed. Audible sigh. Now, performance on the Pixel 6 Pro may not be quite as beefy as many rivals, but everyday play on here is silky smooth, helped along by the 12 gigs of DDR5 RAM and the fact that you've got that lovely stock version of Android which just marries up nicely with the Tensor chipset. I gotta say though, the back end of that Pixel 6 Pro can get a bit toasty at times, even when I'm merely browsing the web for 40-50 minutes at a time with the screen on the whole time, or using it as a sat nav. That really heats the bugger up. Thankfully, I haven't noticed any performance issues caused by this heat, and even when the phone screen has been on for a solid couple of hours at a time. And if you are gaming, well, the likes of Genshin Impact, you will see the occasional little judder and stumble, unfortunately, if you do boost up those graphics settings to the highest possible levels, whereas a lot of rivals do tend to cope with it pretty well, especially at this flagship sort of price point. That said, the experience is still perfectly playable, and if you do just bump down the graphics settings ever so slightly, then you tend to get a much smoother frame rate, and it is a lot of fun. And I also appreciate how Google has finally added a gaming mode to stock Android, which has been a very long time coming. Sadly, this hasn't really evolved at all over the past 6 months despite the constant Android 12 updates. It's still pretty basic as far as gaming modes go, certainly compared with the likes of Sony and the stuff you'll find in the likes of ColorOS and MIUI. But it is definitely better than nothing. It has been very useful at just doing little things like blocking notifications when you're balls deep in a Call of Duty session. And that Tensor platform does also add a tasty bit of sub-6 5G action, so perfect here for the UK where we don't have the super speedy millimeter wave action just yet. You've also got Wi-Fi 6E action on there, and no complaints on either of those fronts. The mobile connectivity, the Wi-Fi connectivity been reliable and nice and nippy. Now, battery life does seem to have reduced just a wee bit over the past few months, annoyingly, but I still have no trouble making it through a long full day on just a single charge. Only one time in recent memory have I managed to fully drain the battery in a single day, and that was with about 7 hours of screen on time, pretty full intensive use. The 30-watt wired charging in particularly nippy. It matches most rivals from likes of Samsung and Sony, for instance, but not quite reaching the dramatic highs of the likes of the Realmes and the Xiaomis with their 100-watt plus charging speeds. But you do have wireless charging chucked in here as well, like most other premium flagship phones. And the most convincing reason to grab a Pixel 6 Pro over rivals like the Galaxy S22 Plus is the excellent camera tech, spearheaded by an impressive 50MP primary sensor with optical image stabilization. No matter what you're shooting and no matter what time of day you're shooting it, the chances are very good that you'll get lifelike results. This thing is fantastic for capturing wide sweeping vistas when you're on holiday, especially when you swap to that 12MP ultra-wide angle lens or the 48MP telephoto shooter to get a pulled back or close-up view of some nifty bit of architecture. And the Pixel 6 Pro also does a bang-up job with close-up portraits of your pets and people who just happen to hang around the same house as you. Of course, the Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro have some stiff competition these days from the likes of the Vivo X80 Pro and the Oppo Find X5 Pro and just the regular Oppo Find X5 as well. In fact, those Oppo blows are actually a wee bit better than the Pixel in low light, especially when it comes to shooting video. In low light, I did still find with the Pixel that your subject will have to stay pretty still, otherwise they will come out blurry. And for video, you can shoot 4K resolution footage with the same impressive colour accuracy, crisp audio capture, and the option of swapping between the 3 main lenses as you record, with transitions that aren't horrifically distracting. As I mentioned, I think the Find X5 phones perform better in more ambient conditions, and Samsung's S-series handsets produce video that look and sound a little cleaner, but this blower does a decent job for your home movies. And then up front you've got an 11.1 megapixel selfie snapper, which has a slightly wider viewing angle than the regular Pixel 6, but serves up very similar pics. And this is one of the more disappointing aspects of the Pixel camera tech, because in dimmer light you will get very grainy, flat looking pics. At least it would be disappointing if I actually bothered to take selfies for any reason other than these reviews. No noteworthy new camera features have been bunged on the Pixel 6 Pro in the 6 months since it launched. Of course, that magic eraser tool is still a bit of a stunner as long as you don't expect too much from it. But you know, you've got all the basic stuff in there. The portrait mode works a charm and everything. So it is overall a very satisfying snapper, if not quite one of the best around anymore. But for more on all that jazz, you can check out my full in-depth Pixel 6 Pro camera review, where I also compare it with the regular Pixel 6. And that right there, my lovelies, is my full 6-month Pixel 6 Pro review. I do still like it after half a year, but I gotta say I'm definitely more enamored with its smaller siblings still, especially the fact that I've seen a lot less bugs on that one randomly. Again, it's probably just one of those bizarre happenstances. There were some big rivals in 2022 as well, the likes of the Oppo Find X5, the Realme GT series handsets as well. So definitely go check out my full unboxings and reviews of those. It'd be great to hear your thoughts on the Pixel 6 Pro if you've been rocking it these last few months as well. Have you had a similar sort of experience or different? It'd be great to hear. And please do plug subscribe, ding that notifications bell, and have yourselves a bloody lovely rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you.